Hey guys, so, today I'm actually going to answer a question. I'm going to answer a question that I get a lot. I get it on Facebook, I've gotten it on YouTube, I've gotten it on Instagram. So, I've gotten this simple question. Why don't I film at LARPs? There's a lot of people who do, and that's cool. The reason I don't film at LARPs is a long, complicated answer, but the short version is that I just don't like to. I honestly come at the perspective of this. I am not a YouTuber first. At all. I'm a LARPer first. I've been LARPing for almost 10 years. I grew up during this hobby. Like, if you were to remove LARP from me, I don't know where I would be. I don't know where my career would be. I don't know where anything would be. And when I think about it, and when I've thought about filming, I thought, would that make me uncomfortable? Like, if I was at a LARP, and I just wanted to experience it or anything like that, seeing another player, not like a cinematography crew or a photographer, seeing a player filming stuff, would that make me uncomfortable? The answer was actually yes. And I noticed that, like, when I asked a lot of people, when I first started doing YouTube, and I'm talking about, like, this is, like, way back. If you go back to my very first couple of videos, like, way back, I actually tried to do something where I wanted to take you guys to a LARP with me. I was trying to film at Dystopia Rising, and I noticed how uncomfortable a lot of people felt being filmed. And, like, I felt uncomfortable doing it. And here's the thing as well, is that I really just don't think LARP translates that well on camera. Like, if a cinematography team is doing it, and they're using, like, clips to show you how cool the game can be, I think that works. But I think filming from beginning to end a LARP experience doesn't really work, because it takes one vital thing out of the equation, and that's context. And LARP is a very personal context. Like, what makes my character special and what makes me love those experiences is the way my character matters to me and those experiences that I have. And that's not something I can necessarily translate to you guys over video, no matter how hard I think I would like to. I really feel that if you want to experience LARP, you should just go out there and do it. I could tell you some stories about how cool it is. I could show you some clips and some video, but I don't think, for me, I don't think that's the way I want to show this hobby. Like, I try to think about it like this, like, would I be convinced if I were to see my own video featuring that stuff? And for me, the answer is no. So, I don't film because I feel like most of the time it makes people feel on edge, uncomfortable, and then even then, you run into the whole idea of, well, LARP is improv, right? It's people just acting out scenes, and no one is the audience. The players themselves are the audience, and it's an internal audience experience, right? Nobody's watching. But all of a sudden, if there's a camera, right, then somebody's watching. The camera's watching. The camera is considered an audience to some. And immediately, it makes people change. It makes people uncomfortable. It makes people think about the way they're looking, the way they're role-playing, and it makes them self-conscious sometimes in a way. And that's not something I want to bring into a game. It never has been, and I don't think it ever will be. I think it's different when there's a photography crew and a cinematography crew that are solely devoted to this purpose, and that blend in with the game, and they are not intrusive, and there's players who have written down whether or not they want to be filmed or not. I think the minute a player does that, one, it can break immersion for a lot of people, which is, like, one of the most common complaints I hear, and it just generally makes a lot of players who maybe aren't as camera friendly uncomfortable. And that's, to me, that's a reasonable thing. I think it's a little bit of a sticky situation as well, because I feel that, like, when players want to get footage, it's different than when a cinematography team wants it. That's their job. That's what they're there for. And they make things look pretty, and film shots pretty, and all sorts of things. So, like, it's not to say that anybody that does this is doing something wrong, or is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. I just think that, like, again, as somebody who's been doing this for a long time, and I've thought about this a lot, that's why I don't do it. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, I don't want to be intrusive, and I feel like most of the time it is intrusive. And then you get into the whole, like, idea of, well, is it really showing LARP if people are aware that there's a camera, because then maybe they're acting for the camera, and is it staged, and then if it's staged, it's not even LARP anymore, and it's all sorts of things. And, like, most of the time when there's been a cinematography crew, like, at a Choback LARP, or at, like, Project Ascension or Real Royalty, I don't notice them, at all. And so, the footage I see from that is cool, and most of the time, you know, the companies are really cool to let you use that footage, and sometimes they don't, and that's okay. And I honestly think that the footage, I don't feel is going to convince you. I've never felt that way. Either the experience and somebody telling you what they loved so much about a LARP, that will maybe convince you, you know? And maybe some cool shots of, like, pictures and, like, something happening. But I think what makes LARP special is what it means to you, and, like, how it affects you personally. Because LARP is a personal thing. If I were to go into all the details of my characters, especially a character like Dexter, I've literally played one LARP character for 5 years. That's a long time. And I've taken a break from her for the last 2 years, otherwise it would be 7 years I've played this character. If I were to tell you every in and out of Dexter, I don't think you're really gonna care. And that's okay. That's alright. That's perfectly fine. Because it's really not about if you like that. It's about if I like that. And that's the way it should be about your characters. If it's important to you. And I don't know. I think there's like a whole ethical thing to it. And this isn't to say people who do film at LARPs are bad or they're doing anything wrong. I just think it's something to consider. You know, there's been a lot of upcoming LARPs that, you know, people have been very vocal about feeling uncomfortable being filmed, and, like, I get that. And, you know, that's okay. I don't think whether or not having film while talking about LARP really matters. And I've gotten this question so many times. So many times. And I just, like, for those of you who are at home who are watching and maybe haven't considered LARPing before, or, you know, are curious but don't know if there's a game close enough to you, or are too nervous to take the leap, that's okay. My job here isn't to sell you on why this is cool because you can look at these things. And the thing is that, like, most of the footage I would show you, it has no context to you. You don't know what was happening at the LARP, the emotions at the time, the intertwining things with all the characters. So it's meaningless. It's meaningless. You know, I can sit here and tell you about some parts of my character and some parts of my experience, but at the end of the day, I just believe that LARP is a very personal thing. And what makes it magic isn't whether or not you can see it. What makes it magic is... what makes it magic is you, but that's, you know, really cheesy. But, like, it's true. It's not about the wig or the costume. It's what makes that experience, what's gonna sell anybody on it, is your love for what you do. And I hope that's what I bring to the table, is I just get to show you and talk about what I love to do. And I could LARP every day for the rest of my life. And I'll never get tired of it. I LARPed throughout high school. Sophomore, junior, senior year, my graduation, when I was applying to colleges, my first year of college, my second, my third, my fourth, my break in between. It's something special. And, like, I think what's important, especially when, you know, I have this opportunity to go to a lot of LARPs, is it's not about me. It's about the game. It's always been about the game. It's about what I can add to the game, not what the game can do for me. It's always been that way for me, because I think it's important when, you know, this has been made possible for me to experience all these cool things. I want to add to what I'm going to, not make the experience about me. It's about the game. It's about the community around the game. It's about the players in the game. And that's more important. This is all really lame sounding, but it's really true, and that's how I feel. That's how I've always felt. You know, I think it's an interesting dilemma. And if it were up to me, I would just say, let the camera crew do all the filming, or you know, have a dedicated person for that, or just don't take any at all. The most authentic experience I could tell you about is the one that I was actually able to focus and play through. So yeah, I told you, it's a really long, complex answer. And I think that's just the way I feel just for LARPing so long. And just growing up with it, and just like seeing how people respond, and hearing so many people over the years, and how I have personally felt. You know, I actually used to be really against like in-game photography and videos and stuff like that. I used to avoid the camera at Dystopia Rising. Like, surprisingly, there's like, I have maybe once a year, there's like photos of Dexter. And like, I maybe got into a video like once, like one time. And that was like a dedicated film crew that was like there for the thing. It's just something to think about. Because like, again, as we have this opportunity as pro LARPers, it's not for us to be intruding on your game. It's not for me to be intruding on your game. It's about just playing the game. Just play the game. Yeah. So, this got kind of deep, but that's just the simple answer to the question that I get all the time. That's why I don't film at LARPs. Yeah. So, I guess I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!